Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we've been working on this horrific monstrosity, and it is amazing. I don't know why we've been working on this, to be honest. It's kind of dumb, but it's also, I think, funny, so I want to get it working. And of course, we're too underpowered to actually get this into orbit in one go. So we've decided that we are going to split this so that this is Payload 1 and this is Payload 2. So what that ends up meaning is we need to come in here and detach right here. So we'll just do that for right now. And how exactly does this end up working with the two vehicles? So this up here should be the lander. If we save this right now, this saves under the Duna Lander workspace, with the vehicle name being Lander. I'm going to do this. We're going to save this as it is. Then I'm going to grab this guy, and we're going to ditch it. What does that do? Okay, so that gives us this. That should be pretty much ideal. So we're going to lift this guy and put it into probably a relatively high orbit. Now, I'm not going to overwrite that save file. So let's just... hang on. 0 meters per second? Has it forgotten what we've got going on here? Where's the reroute button? I'm assuming this is the root part now. It should be. Yes. There should be a Kerbal in this, and... Lander and Lander 2. Yes. So we need to be in the Lander 2 component. We can enter text here. Okay. I'm not entirely sure what we've got going on here. Let's put this out on the pad and see what happens. Your vehicle will not be controllable without a command module. We literally have a command module right here. It's a Mark 1 Explorer. Okay. So I'm guessing we need to reroute this then. And the question is, how exactly do we go about rerouting? So that'll be an interesting question for sure. There's the workspace orientation, center of thrust, center of mass, and center of pressure. Sure. This is a snap tool, selection, rotate and translate, assembly anchor. That might be the root part. Invalid assembly anchor. Probably because it already technically was the assembly anchor. Okay, let's try detaching this and reattaching it and see if that fixes anything. The answer is no. Okay, so this should be in Lander 2, apparently. That's intriguing. Okay, so if we open the Duna Lander at this point, we get this, right? This is the auto-saved workspace here. So we would want the... these are all auto-saved? Noted. Let's see what happens if we put it on the pad anyway. I'm curious. It's probably going to horribly break. What? This is just the docking port. Okay. Is there anything underneath the docking port? I don't think so, necessarily. Okay, so we obviously need to revert that to the VAB. So it's just the docking port. Why would that be the case? That's very strange. I mean, I get that we removed the root part, right? That makes sense. But why would it just have it be the docking port? Wild. Well, let's bring this back in here, and now we've got all of this. So... hang on. The docking port isn't up on top. Hang on a moment. Something is wrong here. Right. That's the docking port there. So it needs to be attached like this. I guess the docking port had somehow come detached. Noted. So let's check the staging. That seems to be all correct. Okay, so this is now the fly-safe vehicle. I'm not going to make any changes here. We're just going to put this out on the pad. It's got 11,000 meters per second. That number is not, strictly speaking, accurate. But we want to put this into, I don't know, maybe like a 500-kilometer orbit. And there's no one in the pilot seat. No, never mind. There's Valentina. Valentina will work. So let's lift this guy off. I'm going to put it in a straight-up orientation. We should have pretty good thrust to weight here. So this might be a little too powerful. We'll see how it goes. That doesn't feel all that powerful, to be honest. It's more powerful, no doubt about it, but we definitely have some issues still with that thrust to weight. It's not, like, perfect. It'll do. This'll get us there. It's a whole lot faster, no doubt about that. I don't know what was up with that part routing. That was weird. But it doesn't really matter as long as we get this thing into orbit, in theory. Do we have Kerbal construction in KSP2? I don't know if we do or not. That may or may not be a thing. We'll have to experiment with that. If we don't have Kerbal construction, that'll change how we want to do some of these things a little bit, but it'll be good to get some experience in rendezvous in KSP2 as well and see how all of that works. It should work in basically the same mode with the way the nav ball works. It should be pretty much the same. So that's all fine. We've got about a 3-kilometer apoapsis here, and I would like to move us over, put us in here. Don't go that way. I don't know why it automatically moves us over into radial out, but don't do that. I want to be in orbital mode, and I want to be heading over towards that sweet, sweet prograde marker. So we're just going to slowly head over there. We've got lots of solid fuel left over. This will be fine. So we're just making our way right on over. Okay, we need to get a little bit more rotation than this, that's for sure. I'm keeping an eye on that time to apoapsis, which is still going up, and we are getting some horizontal speed out of this, so that's good. Time to apoapsis is currently about 30 seconds, and I want to just park us at prograde. We're going to burn on the prograde marker until we have an apoapsis of like 500 kilometers. I want this to be pretty high up. So we're just continuing to head over. I'm just going to lock us to prograde at this point. Actually, I'm not. Prograde is heading this way. I want to sit at about 45 degrees for the time being. We're not quite there, and so we need to move over to about here. I just want to park here and keep this nice and stable until such a time as our solid fuel runs out. I want to continue pushing up that apoapsis as much as possible, and we're only about 40 seconds away from our apoapsis, right? So this is definitely going to be a necessity. We're at a 91 degree inclination right now. We can definitely make a little bit of a tweak to that. Over tweaked it. Bring it back up. Okay. SRBs are out of here. Is it clean? Clean separation. Okay, good. So we're continuing to hold here. 50 seconds to apoapsis. Let's see. That is going up. Okay, that's a good sign. We're going to continue to hold here for the time being. I see this heat gauge up over here. This isn't necessarily shocking. We need to continue to punch through the atmosphere as quickly as we can, right? We need to get a lot of altitude. So that is fine to continue to hold here for now. We're going to head towards the prograde marker, but not yet. I want to have more altitude. So 45 degree should be okay for the moment. Whoa, that was flickery. Okay. We've got a bit of a roll that we're picking up. I'm going to attempt to counteract that a little bit. Okay. It doesn't like to be counteracted, I see. So our periapsis is now about 50 kilometers. I'm continuing to burn in this attitude because, okay, we see that this heat gauge is starting to go down a little bit. That is a good sign. Keeping an eye on our remaining fuel. It looks reasonably okay for now. 64 kilometer apoapsis, and we can see our orbital velocity is way higher. Like, splitting this into 2 payloads was definitely the correct idea. The real question that I have is, does Kerbal construction exist? So we're 80 kilometer right now. Let's just actually move this directly over to the horizon. So over we go, and we're going to park it about here or so. We've definitely still got a little bit of roll here, but let's just level that out a bit. Okay. And now we're going to be burning here until about 500 kilometers. We can see time to apoapsis is going up. We've got enough power to do this. I want to hold in this attitude for as long as we can, because we want to have a nice clean separation of these side boosters, right? So that's going to be pretty important. We have a pretty dramatic roll going on here. Like, it's not really a roll, it's an oscillation. Okay, side booster detachment. Clean separation. Beautiful. We're 92 degrees right now. I'm working on correcting that now that we're separated. And we can see we're very close to orbital velocity at this point. So this is pretty decent. As far as like fuel goes, should be absolutely fine. No problem whatsoever. We're going to see our apoapsis starting to go up extremely appreciably very soon. We're at about 150 right now, but we do need a couple hundred more meters per second, so that is fine. We are currently in space, and we should probably consider extending our solar panels. These are not of the retractable variety, if I recall correctly. At least they're not supposed to be. I think they are of the retractable variety. Yeah, they are. It doesn't actually matter, though. It's fine. So we're just continuing to burn horizontal here, getting as much horizontal speed as we can. Thrust to weight on this stage is not phenomenal, but it doesn't need to be. At this point, we've got nearly all the speed that we need, and this is looking pretty good. This time to apoapsis is going to go up very quickly, very soon. So we should have some leftover fuel in this stage, which is a really good sign. That is a really, really good sign for this design, which is, to be clear, a very dumb design. This is an incredibly dumb design, but it'll get us where we need to go. That's for sure. This thing doesn't like to hold attitude very much, and that's noted. That will likely be better once we get the other module in here. Okay, so we're at 250 kilometers. Now 260, 270. That's going to start going up very quickly as we raise up our orbital velocity. We're now at 300. 325. And it's just going to go faster and faster. 350. 375. 400. 425. 450. 475. And almost at our target. A little further. That'll do. Okay, so that looks good. We have our target apoapsis. Now we need to circularize this. So somewhere around this apoapsis, I want to do a prograde burn, and we'll just push this right on out. How much DV is it going to take to circularize? That's not too bad, but that is a little bit more than what we have in this first stage. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to loot a little bit of fuel out of this, because I want to retain this first stage for right now. Because I think this is the heavier component of the two. So, I want to retain this first stage for now. This I want to keep around for just a little while. So we need 276, so we need to loot like 100 meters per second out of this. That's not a big deal, right? So we're going to go into our resource manager, and I want to grab one of these. So that would be this tank. We'd move that over, and then we can have it be, say, this tank. And we can say in, or actually we can have it be equal. Invalid adjust flow states. Okay, we'll just have it be in. That's fine. So that transferred very quickly, but that will give us enough DV down here to achieve orbit, and that's fine. We're going to refuel this with our other craft. So we should be A-okay and have a little bit extra left over in this stage. So that looks good. We'll align to this node. Now, we're going to have a bit of a hard time turning. All we've got is one pathetic little reaction wheel in here. This is not intended to fly in this orientation, right? So that's okay. We're just going to slowly rotate ourselves over. Incredibly slowly. I'm also noting our electric charge is draining right now. Okay, now it's going back up. So our solar panels just weren't in the correct orientation, I think. Yeah, that's what that was. Okay, cool. So we're going to be aligning to this node. The node is now visible. And of course, we're going to be continuing to gain altitude for quite a long time. And we're not quite in orbit. If we were to leave this be, it would definitely deorbit and crash. That's not ideal, obviously. So let's get into position here, and the other module of this we don't actually want to maintain. We want to maintain specifically this one because that's in the correct directionality for pushing. So we're going to transfer all of the fuel from the other and ditch that. That's absolutely a-okay. So we are just aligning ourselves up here. A little bit more alignment is necessary. And we are going to warp to this maneuver as of now. It's close enough. So that'll do. That'll deposit us about 40 seconds away from the maneuver, I believe. And of course, we'll warp in a little closer than that. 30 seconds. Okay, that's fine. 20 seconds. 10. And 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Excellent. So let's just put ourselves into a circularized-ish orbit. That's the overall goal here. So this burn happened at the apoapsis, and really it should have happened about a minute before the apoapsis, but it should be good enough. This should be absolutely fine. 276 total meters per second, and I'm going to drain all of the fuel out of this tank and put it back up here. But we did have to loot a little bit of that, so it's not going to fully do it. This is good enough. We're close-ish to circularized, but that'll do. So now what I want to do is I want to go into the resource manager, and I want to grab this tank as well. And we want to tell these out, 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 start. Okay, so as you can see, we did indeed loot a little bit of... Hang on. No, we want this one to be in. There we go. Transfer completed. What? No. Just keep going. Take all of it. No, take all of it. Can we take all of it, please? I think the problem is that we have this one included in here. Oh. 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 That's a problem. It's just respawning that tank in there without actually removing it. Okay, that's exciting. Well, we're going to say in, out, out, out. Okay. In, out, 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 out. This is obnoxious. No doubt about that. I want this out, in this in. This is mildly buggy. No doubt about that. This transfer is not technically completed. It'll do for now. I want to switch off of this vehicle for the moment. That might fix some of this. So let's head back to the VAB. At this point, we need to launch the second component. So that'll be fine. We're going to do exactly that. So we want to open up the Duna lander here. I want to load this. Now, this is what we had previously saved, complete with the lander, although it's detached here. Now, this is going to be a little bit awkward. It is. This is actually going to be a lot awkward. How do we want to do this? Because we're going to want to have this be attached down here, right? That basically means this section is going to have to be turned around. We shouldn't need to have this module at all. Although we could bring it as a fuel storage. It would be wildly overkill. So I think we detach this here. Actually, hang on, that's the engine. We would detach this actually here. This module does not need to be brought at all. So we can just get rid of that module at this point. Now, we need to figure out, do we want to lift this thing inverted or not? Well, we could definitely remove the nose cone here Theoretically, we could flip this around. So we would need to grab this component here, flip it like this, and then come into here. Control orientation would be reversed. And then we would put in... I'm thinking we wouldn't, in theory, need this. So we could just do a decoupler here. That might be the way to go. So a TD25 decoupler would go here, right? Although I'd like it to be a little further up, but that's probably not going to be a thing. So the TD25 decoupler would go not there, but there. And then this would go in something like that, which is, of course, insane. This is somehow even more insane. I like it. So we're going to do quad-coupled struts, and I'm going to have those come from here, and they are going to simply connect down. That's an awkward way to do the quad-coupled struts. Okay, that's a very awkward way to do that. Can we have them come from here and just connect up over this way? It really doesn't want to do that. Wild. Okay, that's not what I want it to be doing. So I'm going to get rid of those. Okay, that doesn't work. I'll put it here, and we'll take this off. It doesn't want to get rid of this either. Let's not have this be attached to anything, ideally. I really just want to get rid of it. I guess we have to have it attached somewhere. But it doesn't actually attach anywhere. Are we soft locked right now? Wait, we could attach it there. What? That's not attached to anything at all. Okay. Let's turn off the symmetry, if we can. We cannot. Okay, this is very strange. No doubt about it. But we can put this here, like that, from a different angle. Let's turn off the symmetry and see if we can get rid of this guy. I want to grab this. I want to just get rid of it entirely. I do not want it to exist. I don't know what it's connected to here. Nothing at all. It's not connected to anything. Okay. Well, that's exciting. I hope that we have sufficient connectivity up here. In KSP1, that would be pretty wiggly. So that would be a bit of an issue. There is, in my opinion, some pretty significant VAB issues in this game right now. Okay. That is exciting stuff. But let's launch this and see what happens. I'm a little concerned. I don't know what's up with that strut. We can't get rid of it. But I want to get this thing into space if we can. I don't think it brought that strut with. So there's that. And yes, this is definitely mounted in reverse. Let's get out of here. I'm going to skip the countdown. Okay, go. There we go. Fantastic. Let's put this in up for right now. And this is going to be a lot less weight than the previous one because we're not carrying that interstage and our upper stage is much, much lighter. So this should be very, very effective at delivering this to orbit. We should come with a fair amount of extra fuel, which is good. That's exactly what we want. Now, we've got Bill here and no one in this seat. That's okay. We don't need anyone in that seat. We only need 2 total Kerbals. So this seems good for now. We're going to continue to lift off here, and we're going to want to put this into a 45-degree angle relatively soon. Actually, maybe right about now. Let's start moving it over, because we want to have some amount of horizontal speed, but we also want to punch through the atmosphere. And we have a lot of thrust to weight compared to our previous iterations of this. And yes, this is very weird. There's no doubt about it. But let's just move this right on over. We're going to want to unreverse the control scheme in this eventually, for the record. But for now, this will do. So let's just park this at about a 45-degree angle, and we're just going to punch up through the atmosphere and get horizontal speed simultaneously. Hopefully we don't have our engines burn off, but they should be okay, in theory. Okay, so I'm just going to park us somewhere around here. Excellent. Our SRBs are going to burn out eventually. Whoa, hang on. Oh, we're trying to go back up to up. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Come on back down to the 45-degree marker. I just want you in prograde orientation right now. That'll do. Cool. So we're just going to park it right about here. Our SRBs are going to be burning out in about, well, a little while. Yeah, just park it here. Cool. We see time to apoapsis going up. Also, the music has decided to get really loud right now. I don't know why. It does this, though. I kind of wish it didn't. But upwards we go here. We've definitely got pretty decent thrust to weight, but we're still pretty low right now at about 8 kilometers above the above the ground. What is our sea level altitude? It should be the same. Yeah. Sounds good. And chilling at about 500 meters per second surface velocity. That's fine. We're watching that apoapsis number go up, and that is absolutely great. Now, this is probably our docking port, and we had the same thing with the other vehicle, but we just need to punch our way through the atmosphere, right? And our SRBs are going to be gone very shortly. That's going to reduce our thrust to weight, which should also reduce the amount of strain on that docking port, in theory. Although that is pretty up there. Okay. SRB detach. Ooh, that doesn't look very clean. Did we lose any engines? Yes, we did. That was not a clean SRB detach at all. So we ended up losing an engine there, and that is, of course, not good. We cannot maintain attitude control. So we're going to have to revert that back, and the question is, what can we do differently about that to have a cleaner detachment? Well, we can move those down, or we can just go more up, right? That's the other option there. And we're going to have to revert this back at this point. The way to stop this, of course, would be we would detach here and we'd just parachute Bill down. So we're just going to skip that for the sake of time, and we're going to revert this back because this is a catastrophic loss at this point. That was a bad detachment, and I think it was because we were still a little too low. We could revert this back to the launch, and I'm going to do that. And we're just going to take this guy straight up this time. We're not going to attempt to... we're going to nuclear option this, right? We're not going to attempt to get all that horizontal DV until after the detachment happens. So that's all absolutely fine. It's nothing significant. If we had had an issue like that on the previous launch, that would have been a significant issue because, yeah, we don't actually have a way for Valentina to return. So that would definitely be spicy, no doubt about that. I'm just going to put this in a straight up velocity here, and we're just going to have these SRBs carry us up. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to go straight up, and then we're going to dogleg over to the horizontal position. And it's not going to be super efficient, but it doesn't need to be. So that's fine. Upward we go. Yeah, I think the problem was we were a little too low still when we had that detachment happen. I overestimated our thrust to weight gains, which definitely are thrust to weight gains here. That's for sure. They definitely exist, but I think I certainly overestimated them a little bit. That's fine. We're just going to punch straight through the atmosphere this time. No worries on that front whatsoever. We need to target like 500 kilometer apoapsis, right? So we should have a pretty decent... Actually, we want to target a little off of that. probably a decent amount off of that, now that I think about it. It's going to be somewhere around like 300 kilometer apoapsis is what we want to target here. But we'll see what our apoapsis is looking like when our SRBs detach. This should be much cleaner, no doubt about it. We're just going to angle for the orbit this episode, and we are going to do the docking maneuver and heading off to Duna next episode. But I think this is our finalized design at this point. There's not too much else that needs to happen. It seems like docking ports are relatively rigid in this game, and that's a very convenient thing. I do like that. That is very, very good. They seem to be quite rigid. This would be flopping all over the place at KSP1, for the record. So our SRBs are continuing to burn out their fuel. We've currently got an apoapsis of about 15 kilometers. And yeah, we're not all that high here, that's for sure. But it's fine. We don't necessarily need to be. We've still got about 6 tons of solid fuel here, so we're down to about the last quarter there. And our thrust to weight is going to be dramatically increasing. We're just putting this into vertical speed instead of any horizontal speed at all. It's less efficient, but it will result in a cleaner separation. And that is absolutely what we need here. It's just a change to our ascent profile, and that will cause us to not have issues with losing engines. So about 3.5 tons remaining in our solid fuel. 600 meters per second and continuing to go up. So we're keeping an eye on this heat gauge here. That was an issue before as well, but because we're putting this purely into vertical rather than any horizontal, that means there's less air between us and space. So this shouldn't be as dangerous in theory. But our SRBs still have about a ton of... Oh, there we go. That dropped dramatically. Because we switched over into a different zone, I guess? Sure. Our SRBs are going to burn off very shortly here. There we go. SRB detachment. Is it clean? It's clean. Okay, so now we're going to head over directly to the horizon. Our apoapsis is now about 67 kilometers. Now it is 70, so our apoapsis is now officially in space, and we're just heading right on over. We want as much horizontal speed as we can right now. Now you can see our surface velocity is going down at this moment. That is expected. Overshooting this a little bit. Let's bring it back. Okay. Right about here. We, of course, want to put this into stability assist rather than trying to bring us back over into up. That would not be great at this moment. Okay, so we just flipped over into orbital mode. We can see our orbital velocity is increasing nicely. Now, we're at about 40 kilometers at this moment. We have almost entirely vertical speed, and we, of course, just need to bring this up to probably about that 300 kilometer marker, as we said previously. It's currently about 80 kilometers. So we've got a ways to go here. I'm keeping an eye on this T-. It is going down, but it's going down very slowly. We should be okay on that front. Okay, so incredibly slowly. We've lost 1 second here. It's going to start going up here. This is too long. Yeah, this is now going up, so that's perfect. No problem whatsoever there. We are at 53 kilometers apoapsis at this moment, and of course, we have our module on backwards, but that is intended. That was absolutely intended. So we're going to have our side boosters burn out fairly soon. We're definitely having some atmospheric drag issues. I think that we would do better if we had like nose cones on these bits, but here we are. This is the tech we have. So for the time being, this will do. We just want to get ourselves out to Duna, and the monstrosity will do the trick. We just got to get it assembled. So we're at 98 kilometers. You can see we've got ourselves an oscillation again, and that might just be endemic to this design. We'll see. but we want to continue to accelerate this up. 108, 109, 110. We can see we're very close to orbital velocity at this point, and we are going to have these guys falling off shortly. So that looks reasonably fine. Side boosters are going to detach now. Clean detachment. That looks good. And we're just going to continue to burn here for a while. So we've got about 1,000 DV, a little bit over in this stage. That's absolutely fine. We would like to not loot any fuel from this stage if we can. Ideally, we would like to do all of our docking procedures with this stage. Why are we still seeing an overheat gauge here? We're in space at this point. I don't know, maybe that's a display bug. For now, I guess it's okay, and we're just going to position ourselves about at the horizon. There we go. We do have a bit of rotation here that we could attempt to fix. Something about like this or so. Okay, that'll be fine. 200-kilometer apoapsis now. And we're just targeting 300 so that we have a fairly easy time docking this thing up, right? I mean, this thing is going to have a lot of mass to it still, and so will the other, but that's okay. So 250, 260, 270, 280, 290, and 301. That'll do. So that's absolutely fine. We will need to grab our apoapsis here and create a maneuver plan here. Technically, this should be slightly before the apoapsis, so we should be targeting it like here or so, and then have this burn be out this direction. About like that. 237 meters per second, that's great. We don't have to steal anything out of here. So let's align for that. We should be able to turn this fairly easily with this reaction wheel in here, and I believe this also has a reaction wheel. It's a little on the slow side. I'm not going to turn on our monoprop here. We want to reserve our monoprop primarily for docking maneuvers, so that will be A-okay. What the heck? What is happening here? Why is our docking port not attached? That's exciting. The shroud is still on our poodle. Is there no decoupler here? Let's see if we can do anything about this. I know we're on a crashing trajectory. Can we go into a Kerbal construction mode? I'm not sure if we can. Yeah, this is, I guess, not connected. It's wild that it lasted this long. Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this again off camera, and when we come back, this will be connected. It is past time to put a cut in here, so we'll be in this 300-kilometer orbit. And yeah, we're out of electric charge right now, but I don't actually care about that. We would just need to extend these solar panels, right? This is, I guess, not actually connected to anything. I don't know why, but I think there was a problem with the decoupler here. That's okay. We can work with that and do something about that, hopefully. I think it was just resting. I don't know what's going on with this. It's very strange. I'll look into it. We'll have an answer next episode, and this will be in a 300-kilometer orbit once we come back. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.